on the set in 3, 2, 1, going live.
All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of HB Unplugged. And I actually get the privilege of introducing two guests today. First, I want to introduce Rick Brown. Don Ramsey is Rick. He's
in Hawaii.
He's in Hawaii surfing some big waves and having some fun with his family, and well-deserved for sure.
Yes, sir.
So I got Rick Brown, Mr. Rick Brown, sitting in for Don Ramsey as my co-host today. And we have a very special guest, Dan Hay. And, you know, before we get started, Dan, you just shared a video with me, and we're going to kind of get into what this man has done and what he's doing. But, you know, when you watch a video or a movie, sometimes, you know, they grab you. Sometimes they can capture you as if you were at the event. And Dan shared a video with me about what he does, and you're going to hear all about what he does. And really, it touched me. And you saw, I actually got emotional with that video and what you're accomplishing and what you're doing. So let's give a big warm welcome to Dan Hay, our guest. Let's give him a big hand. Welcome. Yeah, that's to see the whole crowd's out there.
There's more people here than I thought.
Yeah, really, they're all over the place. Yeah. So, you know, I'm going to have Rick kind of host this thing and stuff, but one of the first things we want to do is find out a little bit about Dan and his personal life, and as much as you want to, you know, work out, we don't want to hear everything.
I'm an open book.
Yeah, there he goes. So, you know, first off, we start out with family. Dan Hay and wife, kids, grandkids. I understand. You're starting your own softball team or
pretty
your own
much,
softball league. Yeah.
Yes, been married 40. What year is this?
45.
45 years.
Wow, congrats on that.
Yes, and to my wife Carrie, and we've lived here in Huntington Beach, Fountain Valley for the last my whole life. Raised in Huntington Beach, and businesses have been in Huntington Beach all these years, and currently reside in Fountain Valley, but. Been here for a long time, and my mother is still alive. She's 88 years, going to be 88.
Congrats on that one.
And I'm the oldest of 6 siblings, or 6 kids here, raised in Huntington Beach.
Boys and girls both?
4 boys, 2 girls.
Wow.
I've got 5 out of the 6 are still here.
Wow,
you know, so
unreal.
One we lost here about a year ago, but.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, and I got 11 grandkids, and 6 boys, 5 girls, and all of my kids. 3. Let's go back to my kids. I got 3 sons and a daughter, and all 3 were athletes here. All 4 were athletes at Huntington Beach High School. Very good athletes.
And did you coach them?
Oh yeah, I coached them all through baseball and basketball.
Wouldn't have any other way.
Yes. And softball. My daughter was the one that really got me into softball. But I was coaching baseball with my sons, Robert, Brandon, and Garrett, for quite a few years, and they were all very good athletes. My daughter ended up playing Division I softball at Bowling Green State University back in Ohio. Wow. And they all live here locally. All my grandkids are local. I've got 6 grandsons and 5 granddaughters.
Wow.
And the 5 of the granddaughters are playing softball, soccer, flag football. The boys are playing baseball. I've got a sophomore going to be a junior at Ocean View High School, going to be playing, I believe, varsity baseball next year, and 2 other grandsons playing in Irvine Pony, very good athletes down there. So
wow, full-on sports family altogether.
Unbelievable.
Are you a Dodgers fan? Are you a Dodgers
no,
fan?
heck no.
Oh, darn.
Heck no.
We can still be friends.
I'm an Angel fan. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh, my dad grew up an Angel fan, and actually. An interesting story. I remember being a little boy, and my dad said, "Come on, kids, my brothers, get in the bus. We're going for a ride." And he brought us to Anaheim, and they were building the Anaheim Stadium. That's I got a chance to see it.
With
the
big A?
Yeah, under construction. Yeah, the cranes were still working on that. Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah. My dad goes, "This is my team."
Yeah. Hey, one thing I think we should share. You know, one of the things we try to do here with HB Unplugged is we're bringing in personalities that impact the community in a major way. And Dan has done that in so many ways. But let's start off with this last big...
Wait. Why don't we do this? Why don't you give him the real introduction? Like, we've got him on the show. Who is he? And what? Go ahead.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Can we go back to the family thing?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're going to conconcentrate mostly on softball. Correct?
Well, yes, primarily.
Oh, no.
I can't let you see all these notes.
That right there, we'll wait.
Okay.
We'll wait. Okay.
All right.
I didn't know we were going there.
All right, okay. Yeah. He's got
I got several things.
You know more about me than I thought. So.
There we go. Yeah, this is good. Go ahead, Rick.
All right.
Yeah.
So we have Dan Hay.
Dan Hay has impacted the community like probably no other in so many ways, especially from a sports perspective. And what I wanted to share just most recently was how he impacted, again, Huntington Beach. Dan happened to be the co-head coach at Marina High School, and they won the CIF Division III championship. So please share about that, Dan.
Yeah. So we, Shelly Luth and I have been at Marina now for the last 8 years, and Shelly, we both retired because Shelly had been there for 20-some years, and I was at Canyon High and Huntington Beach High before that for 15 years. And we came back out of retirement, said we were going to do it together, and we're in our 8th season, thinking it was only going to be 2 or 3 seasons. So, and it's been a struggle. And we compete every year, we make the playoffs every year, but man, do we have to coach, And we've been blessed with some very good athletes that came to our school, and we peaked at the right time. We struggled at the first part of the season, and we ended up 3rd place in Sunset League behind Los Al and Huntington Beach with an 8-4 record in league. We had a season record of 14-13, so we were, but we all of a sudden we peaked right about the last couple weeks of the season, and we went 5-0 in the playoffs. We only allowed 2 runs in 5 games.
Wow.
And just went through and swept through the Division III finals, semifinals, quarterfinals.
Fantastic.
And won the championship game convincingly.
8-1.
8-1, at Deanna Manning Stadium in Irvine.
Yeah.
So it was a great experience. It really was. So it was those don't come around too often for people. CIF championships in any sport, at any level, on the high school level, they're hard to come by. So
And this past year, look at HB's cleaned house in a couple of the high schools. I mean, this has been
Edison
amazing.
High School football.
Yeah.
But, one thing you have to say about girls softball, the girls are so fundamentally sound that Dan and his coach have to coach these kids so well, but fundamentally they are so good. And he knows what to expect from each one of them. They know what their role and responsibilities are. Right. And they just came together at the end and executed like just from all that training. I mean, when Dan has the good fortune of being exposed to some of the best kids in the entire country, and that's college and high school.
Yeah, I want to make that very clear to everybody watching this show that we're not talking about Dan Hay coaching a high school.
No, that's just the start here.
That's just the tip of the iceberg of what you're going to hear, who this man is and what he actually does.
Well, let me tell you why so many girls love playing for Dan. Back, we have to go back to 2009 when Dan started the Premier Girls Fastpitch, when it's called PGF. And he started that, and it's grown into just a juggernaut. They have 600 teams from all over the United States that come here for 17 days to Huntington Beach, Fountain Valley, and Irvine. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it's probably the biggest revenue generator of any big event in the city or in Orange County from a sports perspective or even from a business perspective. Is that right, Dan?
You're on. Let's hear it. Yeah,
it comes close. We did some economic impact reports that we give to all these municipalities, and the city of Huntington Beach referred us a company by the name of Destination Analysis. And they do an extensive report every year on our revenue and expenses, and it generates about $130 million during that 17 days here in Huntington Beach and in Orange County.
In Orange County, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a very high revenue producing event that comes into town. There's over 50,000 people we bring in from across the United States that come in.
It's a 7-day, like a 2-week period.
Well, we have thousands of teams across the United States that play PGF, but during the national championships, it's around 625 to 650 teams, depending on the year, that will come in, and we'll divide the championships up between 2 weeks. So 325 will come in the first week. That usually is the 18 and under division and the 16 and under division. And then they leave on a Saturday, and on a Sunday, here comes another 325 teams of the 14 and under, 12 and under, and 10 and under divisions.
Imagine the coordination.
Yes, and we're talking 43 fields going nonstop for 17 days, umpires on all the fields. I believe it's over 1,700 games.
Concession stands, vendors.
Vendors. We put on 2 coaches' dinners at the Hilton Hotel in Costa Mesa for about 500 to 600 coaches each time. We put on an opening ceremonies event at Central Park in Huntington Beach that we bring in all of the big softball personalities, live entertainment, and all kinds of vendors, and there's about 4,000 to 5,000 people that attend that.
Wow!
Our championship games are televised on Fox Sports, Comcast, and ESPN.
Of course they are.
So it's a very, very big event, and it's pretty crazy.
You brought something to our attention before we actually started this show. It rivals the same events that we've had here. First off, I got to tell you this. I've been here all these years at Huntington Beach, and I really didn't know all about this. I mean, I knew of the events, but I never knew the magnitude. And that's what this show's all about, because we're educating all our viewers right now. They're like, wow, over there, this is overwhelming stuff. But it rivals some events here in Huntington Beach, what you've done. You're talking about the air show and, the U.S. Open. I mean, we're talking a big event.
Yeah, it rivals them. We're one of 3 entities, you named the other 2, that the city of Huntington Beach gives us a contract to give us the right to run this every single year, and they make sure we're happy. They do a very good job for us so that we keep bringing these folks back, because for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, when you have these national championships before, they'd be held in the Midwest someplace, and at the end of July, you're talking 100 to 110 degrees, major humidity. The minute you lose and you're eliminated, you can't find a flight fast enough to get back home. People out here, if they lose in the first round and they're done, they're not going anywhere.
Wow.
It's still 75 to 80 degrees here in Southern California, so they vacation the next 4 or 5 days.
Go to the beach,
and by the way, we control all the hotel rooms too. We control over close to 15 to 17,000 room nights during that event that we coordinate for these teams. So
wow.
And by the way, that's not the only tournament. I mean, you just had a tournament either coming up or you just had one.
Yeah, we just had 120 teams in here last weekend. We will have another 120 teams going this weekend. Last weekend was a college showcase tournament where we had a couple hundred colleges out here recruiting the kids. This upcoming week, it's a very small college showcase tournament and a very large qualifier for some teams that still want to come to the national tournament. It's not an automatic invite.
Oh, you got to qualify.
All the big dogs we invite, because we know they would win the qualifiers anyway. So about half the field gets invited here. The other half have to play in over 45 qualifiers that are somewhere throughout the United States
to get here.
And we might give 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 berths out of every qualifier. So they're competing, and the Southern California qualifier starts on this Friday.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
By the way, these showcases, it's a huge deal because a lot of these girls are trying to get scholarships to different universities around the country. And the one thing that the PGF has been able to do is put out the very, very best athletes in the country. In fact, why don't you share a little bit also about the All-Star opportunity when they pick All-Stars from all over the country and you've got the coaches involved?
Yeah, that's called our All-American team. So every single year we will produce an All-American game, well, 2 games. The first game we call it the Futures All-American game, and we determine through a voting process in which we have all of the coaches that are coming to nationals vote on this, and then we have a committee that reviews the votes and makes sure these coaches get it right and there's no shenanigans being pulled.
Now, these are All-American girls from each team.
These are
All-American,
and there might not be an All-American girl on every team.
Right.
Right.
These are the very best
This is
kids.
the best of the best. These are kids that you're going to
wow.
see going to Division I, Power 5 schools in 3 years, 2 years, or the following year. So the Futures team is made up of one team, 22 kids only in the entire United States of the top sophomores in high school and versus the top juniors in high school. Okay? So we'll determine that we have determined that already. And then we have another game that we play. Both these games are televised on ESPNU. And the other game is the top seniors. These are kids you will see on the College World Series and the regional championships.
Division I
that you'll see next year on ESPN, like you have the last 4 weeks watching these kids play. And this is the top eastern part of the United States versus the top western part of the United States of these seniors playing each other. And it's phenomenal talent, phenomenal skill, and it's one heck of a broadcast.
These girls are such highly coveted girls that how many college coaches do you have at a time? I got to imagine several hundreds, right?
Well, for the national championship, we estimate between 350 to 500 coaches will be here.
Unreal.
And there are we have some competitors that will put on a tournament to try to compete with us at the same time. and the coaches get kind of upset because they can't be in two places at once, but they always send the head coaches and the top two coaches here, and their assistant coaches get sent to that ugly place in the Midwest someplace.
You know, it just dawned on me. We got to get our inside team from HB Unplugged with Alejandro and Sky to get these dates on the calendar, on our calendar, Rick.
Oh, absolutely.
Because at the end of the show,
yes.
we're going to be talking about how to get a hold of you and how do people find these events and things. So we'll get that information at the end. But we've got to really dial this in. So that
I will say that periodically over the years, I can talk about Joe Carcio. Basically, definitely right now, Gracie, Vandermark and Pat Burns and who else?
Casey McEwen,
Casey and
Tony Strickland.
Tony Strickland. Yeah, they've really supported this tournament. I can't hardly get the press in 15 years to write about this. I talked to the Wave and the Independent, and I don't think they truly understand what it is. Just like the public doesn't understand what it is. All they know is during 17 days in the summertime, they don't understand why when they go downtown Huntington Beach, everywhere they go, there's a kid in a uniform, and they're going, where the heck did all these kids come from?
Wow.
And she's from Kansas City, and she's from Florida, and she's from Oregon. These group just came from Hawaii.
Wow,
on top of the Southern California people that are here. But there's 50,000 people here in Southern California. You can go to any mall. I go down to Irvine because we have 3 parks down there, and this Spectrum, Fashion Island. You walk in, and
they're everywhere.
They're everywhere.
Yeah.
They're everywhere you go in Orange County during that time.
Unreal.
So.
But getting the word out is important because there's a lot of young girls here in town that are aspiring to play at that level. And one of the things that Dan shared with me is that a lot of the young girls will go to these games, and these kids that are playing in high school and college, they're like their mentors.
Yeah.
And they really look up to them. And so it's a great opportunity. So if you have a young girl that wants to learn the fundamentals of the game, I mean, you train kids in your facility too, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and listen, my perfect example are my granddaughters. They're playing local rec ball leagues here at Circle View in North Huntington Beach, Junior Miss. And they're going to eventually get to travel ball, but they look up. They can't wait for this tournament because they're out there watching the games. They were out last night at the senior all-star, high school senior all-star game, watching the top seniors getting ready to go to college someplace.
You just brought something up, and I'm curious just to know, what is an average family is going to be spending on a yearly basis to get their kid through this?
Yeah, the average kid playing travel ball right now for travel ball dues is running between $200 and $400 a month, and that's not counting the travel. I would say
that doesn't include hotels or food?
I think
wow.
The average family is probably spending $15,000 to $20,000 a year.
Wow.
Just to play the sport.
Unreal.
Yeah.
Unreal. What a gift. What a great gift. Yeah. It would be interesting at the next event that you have, this big event, those 17 days, bring you in and bring a couple girls.
Oh, absolutely.
Some dynamic players that would love to be on the show. And
I could fill this room with players.
Oh, yeah. That'd probably be kind of cool. Just have a bunch come in and back up the 2 girls who we have on the show. Yeah.
Before we pivot away from softball, I want to say one thing. Last night was a special night because Dan was inducted into the OC Softball Hall of Fame last night.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that, Dan.
Unreal.
Congratulations.
That was 19 years of people saying thank you to me for, I guess, success. When I was at Canyon High School, we had quite some. In fact, one of the girls last night, Lauren Young, who went to the University of Arizona, was my shortstop at Canyon for 4 years, and it's been 13 years since I was there. So those kids are now starting to be inducted. Those top kids that went on to play, but it was a great honor, and I'm most likely we're getting very close, Shelley and I, to calling it quits on the high school level. It's going to be 20 years at the end of next year, so we'll evaluate things year by year. But it's been a great career, and I was very humbled to be honored last night for the many accomplishments that I've achieved. And I've put on, honestly, in the high school side of things, I put on a lot of tournaments for them too, because a lot of them are run by coaches, and sometimes there's things that happen at their schools, and they need my professional company to come in and kind of assist them and help them out. So I've done a lot on the high school side of things too for the entire high school.
Definitely,
event,
congratulations. Which brings me to another point. And this is what I dreamed HB Unplugged would be, is introducing the heroes and the legends and the mentors and the coaches of life, because you can't get there without having a humbled heart. The ego doesn't get you there.
We definitely don't do it for the money.
I know for a fact. We had Ed Laird sitting in the audience today, and I got Ed on the show, and we had him as a guest. And you really see business people or coaches. It doesn't matter if it's a business of baseball or softball or industry.
Yeah,
you got to have a heart. You got to have a humbled heart to really get the respect that you deserve. And eventually it catches up to you. And look what happened last night. So,
and how they impact the community in such a positive way.
This is what HB is all about. The people that don't even know you, Dan, that are now going to know you. We're to expose guys like you that are here in Huntington Beach, that are making a difference in Huntington Beach, is what HB Unplugged is, why Don and I started the show.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you. So we're going to pivot for a minute, and we're going to take off his softball hat and put his Boy Scout of America hat on.
Another big one.
Because Dan's also been the chairman of the board of the Orange County Boy Scouts of America. Is that correct? And
that is correct.
That's correct. And so let me just say this. First off, Dan was an Eagle Scout himself. He had 2 sons that were Eagle Scouts. So talk about a commitment.
3 sons that were Eagle Scouts.
3 sons are Eagle Scouts.
Unreal.
So he's been devoted to the Boy Scouts for some time, and he's been the chairman. And share a little bit about what that's meant to you and your family, and how that's impacted your kids, because I think it's so important that kids have that as part of their fabric.
Before we go there, because Ed actually brought this up on the show, because I really want to make an impact with this. What people don't realize, when you become an Eagle Scout, the accomplishment behind that is something that can actually go on a resume in the business world, in the college career world.
It's the only childhood designation that can do that.
It's one of the
when you enter the military, you go in as an ensign 1, I believe they call it.
If you're
an Eagle Scout, you go immediately to 2.
2. Yep. Unreal. I like people to be aware of what that truly means to accomplish that level in the Scouts. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I
love this.
Well, you talk about mentors, and obviously, I've helped out thousands of kids, sports-wise, but also scout-wise. And you talk about Ed Laird. He's my mentor. I mean, I came back to him. He's like a father to me, and he knows that. He calls me son a lot, and we've known each other forever. And I was away from scouting after my kids. I was running Troop 1 in Huntington Beach for over 10 years. And I don't know if you've been to that cabin. Yeah. My son is now the scoutmaster there.
Lake Park.
Yeah, at Lake Park. My son is now the scoutmaster. And and I've got a grandson that's one merit badge and an Eagle Project away from being an Eagle Scout.
Unreal.
So scouting is a big part of my life. And I came to Ed after being out of it for about 10 years, when I walked away and started building up these businesses. And I stayed registered, but I just wasn't active. And I said, Ed, if I come back, I really don't want to go back down to the unit level. I'd like to be on the board of directors. And he got that taken care of right away.
He spoke. He spoke.
Yeah. God spoke.
Ed spoke.
Yeah, Ed spoke. He was a former chair twice himself, and made it happen. And within about 5 years, I was the chairman of the board. And hopefully I did some great things for the council. And it's a great experience. It's a great organization. I'm done with that job now, but I'm still a board of director. In fact, I'm on a national committee right now. I get pretty passionate with things I see that need to be changed, and I called the National Scout executive that runs the whole thing in the United States and told him what was on my mind, and I'm running a committee right now trying to change that across the country with the Boy Scouts. But my kids are very involved, and my young grandsons that are 9, 10 years old are all going to. Even ones that live in Irvine are coming to Troop 1, because that's where they all were Eagle Scouts out of. So it's a great organization, and I can't say enough about it. It's been great. It's been great for my it's funny because the Boy Scouts has got this image that you need to be a nerd or a dork to be a Boy Scout and put on a uniform. And
farthest from the truth.
It's the farthest from the truth. And if anybody would ever just sit down and read the requirements of what my grandson, who's 16 years old, is the knowledge he has right now of going through all those ranks, all the leadership skills, all of the merit badges, the life-saving, the environmental science, first aid. I mean, emergency preparedness. What they know right now, that 16-year-old knows more than some of my friends that are 66 years old from what they learned to be an Eagle Scout. And to have that designation and take it with you the rest of your life. I don't know how many people I know that said I became a Life Scout, I just didn't finish, or I was one badge away and I decided to rebel against my dad, and I'm regretting it the rest of my life.
And that happens, Same thing with my kids. I became a black belt, then I became a 3rd degree black belt, and I had a couple of my own schools, and I didn't train my kids. I did on the side train them,
right?
But I always wanted another black belt who was qualified to train them. They respected that a little bit more. And right before black belt, they quit. And they regret it to this day. I wanted to go back because what you just said about being involved in the Scouts, and I look at every successful businessman, and when you look in their past, like Ed, Rick, myself, you start looking back. You were a Scout. You threw a newspaper. You mowed lawns.
That's right.
You detailed cars. Washed cars on the driveway. We grew up with that background of being involved in the outdoor world and doing stuff.
I literally went out to the street to my neighbors and asked if I could mow their lawns, and it was $2.50 for the front yard and $2.50 for the backyard. I got $5 to take care of their lawn. I had 4 or 5 neighbors that said, "Okay, Danny," he had enough, hair on his chest, which I didn't have any when I was, 12 years old, to come over here and ask me if I could. They hired me right then.
Unreal.
But you're right.
I talked to I just was talking to Don over Don, CEO or former CEO of Pedigo Bikes, and he shared with the same story. He goes, Mel, let me show you something. He literally went in his office and pulled out a business plan when he was a kid that he wrote to be a detailer. Yeah, my background is And I was like, whoa, I couldn't believe, that was.
I had my grandfather lived in San Jacinto or Hemet, and he'd drive in once a week, and he used to come in with eggs.
Oh yeah,
the farms out there. I said, seriously, Grandpa? And I literally started an egg route with all the neighbors.
Unreal. Yeah.
I said, my grandpa will come in on Saturday, tell me how many dozen you want, and I think I made 50 cents a dozen. I'm not sure what I made, but I had it figured out, and I was delivering like 30 dozen a week to my neighbors, and my grandpa would bring them in for me.
And this is exactly what the Scouts do.
Yes, absolutely.
It just opens up the doors to get these kids out of their computer head and get them out and doing stuff.
Because the young generation right now, they need that more than ever to have an incentive to be out and doing things and learning things and being more well-rounded. Yeah. And in fact, how large is the Orange County Scouts?
Well, that's a good question. They're at about, I think, 8,000 Scouts in Orange County now. At one time when Ed was the chairman of the board back in the 70s, there was around 35,000 Scouts. So they've lost quite a bit. And COVID decimated the Orange County Council, but it decimated the entire country.
Oh, yeah.
We lost a lot of Cub Scouts at that time. The Boy Scouts and Troop 1, they just did their program outside, and they maintained their level very well. And most of the Boy Scout troops survived, but the younger kids didn't. So that's being built back up now throughout the country, but they've gotten through their bankruptcy. The Boy Scouts did. They've gotten through in all their barriers and all the COVID and everything else, and they're really on a great path right now and starting to grow throughout the country.
For kids that want to get involved, what is the time commitment per week? I mean, you have school, and
Good
then
question.
they have
Good
one or
question.
two meetings a week or a month.
Listen, to me, it's how much the parents want to commit. Because if the parents are dedicated to having their kids go through the scouting program, they'll figure it out. Just like my son, who is the scoutmaster, and also was coaching baseball, but is now tracking his son to high school ball or travel ball now during the summer. He's with the ZT Renegades or whatever travel ball organization. He'll head out to a camp out with the Boy Scouts, and at 11 o'clock in the morning, he's got a 1 o'clock game. The kid will put the uniform on at the campsite, get in the car, go play the game, and come back and take out his baseball uniform off, put a Boy Scout uniform on. He's back at the camp by 4 o'clock.
Unreal.
You can do it.
It's funny.
You can figure it out. If the parents really want to make this happen, they'll make it happen.
What's interesting about that is because when we were growing up, I'm 68 years old. I know we're up there. So when we were growing up, we left the house at 7:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
There was no fear, not our families, not our moms or dads. Nobody feared, hey, Mel's going off to baseball, or he's
Right.
got his cleats over his shoulders,
Right.
or the Boy Scouts, 1 or 2 mile walk, 1 or 2 mile walk back. No worry about safety.
Or get on your
I think,
bicycle.
I think society drilled something in, because as we grew up and as society grew, we do have issues in this country now. We do have parents that worry. You can't just let your 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 8-year-old kid go walking out the door going for a 1 mile walk to a sport event or anything like that. And so that is a deterrent for the families, because the family has to now load the kid in the car and make that commitment. But there's been a new development with the electric bicycle, and I'm for the electric bike, but I'm against. I think some of these kids are getting crazy on these electric bikes. They gotta figure it out. But the birth of the electric bike has now freed up mom and dad, because now here's a young man or young woman or young girl that can actually hop on their electric bike and get there real quick and fast and not worry about safety issues. They can get back. So now mom and dad they're actually freed up somewhat.
Yeah.
There is some security or some definition of how,
But
we got to protect our kids. But now we're opening some doors where it gets them.
let me put some perspective to that, though. Think about it. If you're on an electric bike, running around 35 miles an hour in a park,
Oh yeah, crazy.
or you're on an iPad all day long, or you're doing video games all day long, or you're basically doing nothing. Everything that I just kind of mentioned right now is there's
No exercise.
there's no exercise at all.
Yeah.
The one thing that I did, and I'm so thankful that my kids have followed in those footsteps.
The bike.
My kids never had any free time. Basically, they were
you kept them
involved.
booked.
I kept
Kept
them
them
busy.
scheduled, yeah.
they were scheduled. There was something going on, whether it was a school activity, whether it was sports, whether it was Boy Scouts. And my daughter, even though she used to get so mad. It was like, why are my brothers getting to go whitewater rafting or rock climbing or backpacking with the Boy Scouts when I can outdo all three of them? Okay, that was her mindset, and she probably could have, but she's that good. She's a Division I athlete. Okay, now girls can join Scouts, and become Eagle Scouts.
Wow,
That happened about 5 or 6, 7 years ago. There's 7,500 female Eagle Scouts in this country right now, and I asked my social media a young lady that works for me to run a survey. I want to know how many softball players across the country have joined the Scouting America movement.
Interesting.
And or the Girl Scouts. That's fine, either way. But I really would like to know how many Division I, Division II college softball players we have, or high school players, that are doing both. Because those parents, in my opinion, are keeping their kids scheduled. They got them involved.
Speaking of the girls.
Let me say
go
this.
ahead.
You hit it right on the nail on the head. Is all about you got the kids involved.
Exactly.
That's what I do with my kids. My son and my daughter both tell me all the time, Dad, you always got us involved. You didn't let us go down that path. It's, hey, we got to set fence posts for the ranch. We got to feed the cattle. I had a ranch. And so we always kept them, soccer, make your choice, but let's get involved. Let's do
and
something.
my kids never said that to me, but by their actions, I know they lived it. So that's because
they don't have to say it
because when
verbally.
softball's over, they're in gymnastics, or they're in soccer, or they're in flag football. My boys down in Irvine are playing hockey and basketball on top of baseball. So my kids are keeping their kids very, very busy.
You know what? As you get older, as all of us get older, that keeps us young.
Yeah,
because we're active. We're interacting and we're active just as much as they are.
So Dan brought up the Girl Scouts. So Girl Scouts have always had just huge fundraisers, which was Girl Scout cookies. What's been the big fundraiser for Boy Scouts?
We do a popcorn drive, so they make a lot of money on the popcorn sales.
Wow.
Not as much as the
Girl
I don't
Scouts.
believe the Girl Scout cookies, but
I've never heard of the popcorn.
yeah.
thing.
But
So now
there's
they've merged in a lot of ways, right? The girls and the boys now.
not the girls and Boy Scouts. No,
No,
in fact,
not-
when we first started with the Girl Scout or bringing girls into the Boy Scout program, we got sued by the Girl Scouts.
Oh,
Really?
Yeah, they got mad at us, and then about 6 months to a year, maybe it might be a little bit longer. They settled that, and there wasn't really a huge financial payout. Everybody just I think everybody kind of got over it and settled into their new comfort zone and went on it, because it's like any other. If you get a pay increase and you get mad, you're only mad for a half an hour, and then all of a sudden that's your new fee that you're conditioned to pay. So
Yeah,
you just kind of
yeah.
go with it. And the only time you get mad again is if they raise the price you got mad about the time before 2 years
Now you
earlier.
get mad again,
You get mad again. So
Starts over.
So I think everybody got
vicious
comfortable
circle.
with the Girl Scouts doing their thing and the Boy Scouts having girls involved with them. So.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that being said, now let's pivot a little bit to the 501c3 John Wayne Cancer Society.
okay.
You've been involved with the John Wayne kids for some time. What does that look like? What do you do with them? And kind of
so-
peel back that onion a little bit.
Yeah, I am very good friends with Patrick Wayne and Ethan Wayne and Marissa, the kids of John Wayne, and Anita Wayne Swift is the oldest granddaughter of John Wayne. And it was funny. I used to, when PGF was first starting 15 years ago, I used to watch the Western Channel all the time. I was big in Westerns.
Can I hold you
And-
back for 1 second?
Yeah.
I want to say something because there might be a lot of young kids that don't know John Wayne.
Oh, yeah.
John Wayne is an American icon. For the kids that don't know this, he was a football player at USC in 1927. He was in the Sigma Chi fraternity, but he got involved in Hollywood and became a big actor in Western movies where it was really his thing. His thing.
He's the legacy of the cowboy actor.
And
Big time cowboy.
And when people think of Americana, an iconic American figure, John Wayne's
Wayne,
that guy.
yeah.
That being said, go ahead.
Yes, and my kids' age range from 38 to 44, and one of their favorite John Wayne movies is The Sons of Katie Elder, because I'd make them watch John Wayne movies when they were kids.
All right.
So they know who he is. Okay,
You-
so I go back and I'm watching the Western Channel, and they used to do a commercial that the Western Channel did for free for the John Wayne Cancer Institute, and George and Barbara Bush were on this commercial, and John Wayne reminded me of my grandfather and all my relatives on my dad's side from South Dakota. They were farmers. They were rough as hell. They were, if you got them mad, you just got to make sure your chin wasn't too close to their uppercut, because you might be sleeping on the corner, and they'll wake up later and everything's okay, but it's just the way they were raised. And, but anyway, I called them up out of the blue and I said, hey, I've run in this tournament and I'd like to donate you some money. I've raised $20,000. And they looked at me like, nee, this can't be real. And I said, no, tell me where to send the check. So send the check to them. They get a check for 20 grand. This was 15 years ago. And I said, they go, what do you do? And I said, well, come on down and take a look. And so within a year or two, Patrick invited me up to at that time, the St. John's Institute up in Santa Monica, and gave me a big Andy Warhol picture that you saw in my office.
Beautiful.
And thanked me for the donation. And so over the last 10 years, PGF has donated well over $1 million to the John Wayne Cancer Institute.
Unreal.
Yes, and that goes to cancer research.
Look what's happening in HB.
Yeah, and we make sure that that's mainly designated to breast cancer because we're dealing with female athletes. And they make sure it's earmarked to those institutes that they are doing the breast cancer research. And so we'll, like for the national championships at our opening ceremonies every year, they'll get another check this year for $65,000. We'll take $100 from each entry fee and each team that's coming in. And we do this with 2 or 3 tournaments every year, and make sure they on average, we donate to them about $90,000 to $110,000 a year to the institute there, and they're very grateful. And they come out, and Patrick and Ethan will speak on the stage to the girls.
And are there
Patrick's 88
so
years
the girls
old.
are involved in this?
Oh,
and
yeah.
They know where this is going.
We do it on stage.
Wow.
And we advertise and let them know where the money's going, and they know in the entry fees and on the website that they're donating to this cause. And so I had to end up eventually forming my own 501c3 so that we could have their donations were tax deductible to us, and then we donated the money through our 501c3 to them. So.
Fantastic.
So Dan told me last week that John Wayne's wife, Pilar, is still alive.
Yes, she is.
And so if you had an opportunity to...
Have met her?
Nope, I never met her. No, she's she's the mother of Ethan and Marissa, not Patrick's mom. Patrick was from, I don't know who his mom was, but...
does she live in the same home in Newport Beach?
No, I believe they said they just sold that within the last 4 or 5 years,
Okay.
if I remember right. But she does not live in the same house. But they do talk about her a lot. She's 90 years old, I guess, or in her early 90s. And she still gets around very well, and she's very feisty. And but I have never met her.
She'd have to
this is
be.
just what Ethan tells me, and Marissa. So
Oh, well, I wonder the stories that she could tell.
Yeah.
Oh my
Can you
gosh.
imagine? Yeah.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
But just the fact that Dan's been right here in Huntington Beach and being not only impacting the community, but doing it at such a high level, and just the professionalism of the whole organization of PGF, and then what he's been doing, how he impacted the Boy Scouts. And I mean, what a privilege to have you on the show today, Dan. It's just fantastic.
You think about what Rick just said with impact. To be able to build a business is one thing, but to be able to build a business that changes lives, creates futures. I mean, you just
Gratifying.
I can't imagine what you walk around with on your shoulders thinking about the magnitude of that. And
well,
that's
most of the time, I'm thinking about the daily operations of that company down there, and my 11 grandkids. That's enough to think about in itself. But we have helped literally thousands of girls across the country over the last 15 years find their dream and earn their dream to college by playing softball. Because it's not just our events here in Southern California. Like I said, I have tournament operators across the country in different regions that they don't host anything as large as this national championship, but they hold some tournaments that have got 100 to 200 teams in it in different parts, and colleges show up to that. And it's got our sanctioning brand on the tournament. So it's
there's a lot of unfortunate families that don't have a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to know, are there
Scholarships?
Scholarships? Are there things that some of these unfortunate families can get a hold of to get their girls into these tournaments? Are there things provided, solutions for them?
I have found that the majority of the kids, if they're good enough to get the scholarship, that the college finds a way to
make
get
it
them
happen.
to make it happen. Yes.
All
Yeah.
right. That's
We've
good to
never been in a situation where we've had to fund a kid to get through college, because the colleges, like I said, if they see talent, there's 4 or 5 or 6 different avenues that they can get that college education paid for them. So, and there are donors. I mean, we've obviously sponsored a lot of kids with equipment and different things that travel and stuff like that. If we don't make that real public, but if a kid needs help and it's that dire of a situation, PGF has for many times come in and helped
I
and
gotta
assisted
tell you
those
this
folks.
story. A couple of years ago, I went over to Big Five because I got invited to play on men's softball here in Huntington Beach, and little, nothing the magnitude of what you do, but I said, oh shit, I better go get a new glove. I went in and I was like, what the heck? Is this $300 for a glove?
Oh yeah, bats are $500 now.
I'm like,
Yeah.
well, are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, whoa, I couldn't believe the price of that.
That's the one thing we have done is helped a lot of the rec ball leagues in Orange County.
Oh, cool.
Get
Get equipment.
Get equipment.
Oh.
We paid, I think it was 10 years ago. Sometimes the cities, to be honest with you, are short funded. And we bought fences for the city of Fountain Valley's fields there at the complex years ago. The Orange Junior Miss program in the city of Anaheim there, we bought all the temporary fences to go into 6 fields.
Right,
So
yeah.
we've helped many different leagues and many different teams, but mostly I like helping the kids that can't afford to buy a glove. We have our own sporting goods store over here at PGF right off of Gothard too, in our big facility. So I can get a lot of that stuff at cost. So we can help kids out.
I just think selfishly, we have the biggest 4th of July parade west of the Mississippi. I just envisioning having your own entry with some of your best girls on the float, and
That'd be cool to have a float and have it full of softball players.
I think so too.
Yeah, yeah.
I think maybe
Yeah,
next
yeah.
year you should make
Yeah,
that happen.
I never thought of that. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Make that. You know what we could do? Rick is actually looking for a couple girls to carry the HB Unplugged banner. If you could help us out with that, it'd be great. looking for a couple girls that actually can.
Usually the
stand-
Boy Scouts are carrying the banner.
Oh, that's cool. Either way, either way, let's do it.
Yeah.
Can they earn a badge doing something like that?
I don't know about that. I don't know if that's community service. Maybe it is.
I would think that was community service.
I don't know.
Hell,
You can
yeah.
earn a badge, but it'll go towards one maybe.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's fantastic.
No, but I think it's great exposure. It's live on ABC TV. It's the largest 4th of July parade west of the Mississippi.
Yeah.
We have
Yeah, we
600 to 800,000 residents on the.
Oh yeah,
on the street.
I've walked in it many times. I
Yeah.
was my Catholic upbringings. I was in the Knights of Columbus for many years. I still am a member, but I walked it with that. I walked it with the Boy Scouts. So I haven't walked it in quite a few years. So that's for young people now.
Yeah. I'm actually, we're in it.
Are you in it?
We're going to be on HB Unplugged. We're gonna go
Are you walking it?
No, we're actually in a bus.
Oh, okay,
A
all right.
Volkswagen truck.
Yeah,
It's going to be really nice. I'm excited about it. We just had an episode last week, and it was all about 4th of July
okay.
weekend, the whole weekend, all the events that are tied in. Well, Dan, if somebody wants to get a hold of you or they want to know more about what you do or find a website or thing,
Just go to the website right
yeah,
here.
Yeah.
we'll put everything up here that you
Okay.
see on the thing. So
Yeah, and
you'll get
our
it-
a lot of people have driven by our headquarters and looked at the top of the building and go, "Wow, what is that?" But they notice it when I
It's a big
mention it.
building.
But we're right on Gothard, just south of. Is it south? I guess it'd be.
no, that's north.
It'd be north.
You're going north.
It'd
Yes,
be north of Warner,
Yeah.
and it's at 16792 Gothard Street, and you'll see a big white building there with a softball
Yeah,
player.
you can't miss it.
on the top of the
Yeah,
building.
you
Well,
can't-
that's Premier Girls Fastpitch PGF. Our name's on there, and people are. It's open to the public. People are welcome to come in and
I'd love
see
to
what
take a
we're
tour.
about. So
Yeah, I'd love
absolutely,
to- I'd love to-
you're welcome to.
Love to take a tour and see what it's all about too.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Dan. Again, look at this is what HB is all about, or HB Unplugged is all about, and you're just yet another person that really has made an impact in Huntington Beach, and that's what this show is to introduce you to the Huntington Beach community in a much bigger fashion, in a much bigger way.
Well,
thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much. I'm very
I'm
humble, and I'm glad I was able to come down here.
Yeah. So and look at your mentors
Yeah,
here.
yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Say Ed Laird's sitting here in the audience, and it's always an honor to another guy who walks in front of him. Wow, there's Ed Laird.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, I'm Mel Craig,
I'm Rick Brown.
and thanks for joining us for another episode of HB Unplugged.